What's happening, everyone? I'm James Lynch. This is the Fanatics View Hockey Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, post them in the chat. I'll get to every single one of them during this stream. We got lots of time here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We are going to be talking about the Stanley Cup Finals, but there's a lot of news going on as well that we're going to get into on this show. But again, this is your show. You guys drive this thing. We can talk about whatever you guys want, hockey related, of course. And we got a lot to get into. Let me just fix my mic here. There we go. Should be a little bit louder now. And let's get right into it. So first and foremost, like we always do on this channel, I got to plug what is on the channel right now. My guy Taylor behind the scenes putting up some great content, and a lot of you are watching, which is great. You look at the views on some of these videos; they're doing great here. Paul Maurice interview after. I mean, I should mention obviously the obvious, unless you've been living under a rock. The Florida Panthers are up in the series 2-0 against the Edmonton Oilers. That last game, especially, very dominant performance from the Florida Panthers, taking out the Edmonton Oilers. And now the series shifts back to Edmonton. They will be playing tomorrow night. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But on the channel right now, and this is what's so great about Fanatics View, is that you get everything in one spot. You don't have to look on the team channel. You don't have to look, you get other sports networks like Sportsnet, for example. They're combining everything that they have in one. So you're getting, their NHL stuff, their NBA stuff, MLB. Right here, you get all the hockey stuff in one shop, so go check it out. Paul Maurice, 13 minutes talking about, obviously, Barkov getting hit by Leon Draisaitl. We'll talk about that in a sec. We do have an update on what will be happening with Leon Draisaitl. Florida Panthers, 15 minutes worth of post-game stuff here as well. We also got stuff from game one, including Connor McDavid and the Oilers overall. So you can see it. And the timing of this is so good too. Like right after the game's done, my guy Taylor is staying up, putting this stuff out, and very, very much available for you guys to check out as well. So really, really good stuff here from my guy Taylor. Go check it out. Go support the channel and support what we're doing here, which is trying to give you guys the best hockey content out there as an independent outlet. No major backers, no corporate suits involved in any of this stuff. It's just purely for you guys, the fans. So that's everything we got on the channel. Now let's go look at the actual scores of the games. So the first game one, the Panthers beating the Oilers 3-0 in a game which was very much like game 6 of Dallas and Edmonton, where Edmonton outshot the Panthers, but they ultimately are the ones who lose the game. You look at the shots on net here, just 15 saves there for Stuart Skinner, 17 overall shots, and you look at the Panthers, Bobrovsky standing on his head with 32 saves. If Bobrovsky's not playing like this is probably Edmonton's game, but he played outstanding, a lot of good moments in this, and it's great to see. I heard some people talking about this on the radio, and I tend to agree as well. There was a point when Bobrovsky's contract was considered one of the worst in the NHL. He's making over $10 million, was not looking so good in those first couple of years, but now they're getting that value in that contract with Bobrovsky coming up big in big games. And think of the goaltenders he's had to face off against in the playoffs. You started with Vasilevsky in Tampa Bay, then you go to obviously Shesterkin in New York, and was the better goalie in both of those. And now here he is against Edmonton, where I've heard some people, coming into the series talking about, well, Skinner's playing well, it's going to be an even goaltending battle. I don't think so. Bobrovsky's a far better goaltender than Stuart Skinner, and he certainly helped his team here as well. So game one, the story with that was Edmonton playing quite well, getting shots on net, but ultimately not scoring on Bobrovsky and losing 3-0. The last game, I don't know what happened in that first period, even the first 60 minutes. Edmonton was not looking great at all. It's almost like they sort of, I don't know, maybe got in their heads a bit that they couldn't score, but they were not looking so hot. And, they did end up scoring in that first period. But Florida coming back, getting a goal in the second, but the third period, really the difference, one of these being an empty netter, really taking over the game, and a lot of physical stuff. So let's talk about it. There's two things that sort of are takeaways. If you saw this thumbnail of this show, I've got the one of Evan Bouchard in a headlock. A little bit of MMA going on in the NHL, but this is what you expect in playoff hockey. It's a very physical series. That's one of the things that I didn't think was really that obvious in the Dallas series, was there wasn't a lot of hitting, a lot of fighting, compared to, say, the Vancouver series. We're really seeing that in this one. And Florida obviously is a team that is not afraid to throw down. We saw that against the Bruins and the Rangers as well. They're a team that's really willing to go out there and sort of put it all out on the line and take care of business there. By the way, I did forget Florida obviously playing Boston as well. So they also had to face Swayman as well on that run up. So the big thing obviously coming out of game two was Draisaitl's elbow on Barkov. Now Barkov, at the moment we're recording this, You can see here, Barkov could play in Stanley Cup Final Game 3. There's no word right now if he will play. That is a huge blow to the Panthers. He's been one of their best players. And they're, as you can see here, Draisaitl avoids suspension. Now, here, I look at this two ways, because on the one hand, if you look in the series against Boston, clearly Florida should have been suspended with the hit they got on Marchand. So there's that side of it. And then there's also the side of like, do you really want a suspension, impacting the series a lot? I mean, as a Canucks fan, I know that all too well. When they suspended Aaron Rome, I believe it was game 2 for that hit on Nathan Horton, it kind of took the wind out of the sails of the Canucks, and they were never the same after that. Not that Aaron Rome was like the be all end all, but I think even just mentally that really kind of messed with the team. So if you take Draisaitl out of the equation with the Oilers are done. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. They cannot win without Leon Draisaitl. I think that's fairly obvious at this point. So he avoids suspension. So huge break there for Edmonton. This game is going back to Edmonton. They'll have a crowd on their side. They're obviously going to get a bit of a jolt there. I'm really interested to see how game 3 goes tomorrow night, just with the fact that, again, Edmonton's down here. A lot of people are counting them out. This is another thing I know we usually talk about this a little bit later, but check this out as far as the betting lines. Florida Panthers right now are minus 470 favorites is to win the series, which is pretty incredible. So that's how Vegas and everyone else is thinking about the Florida Panthers right now, that the Oilers will not come back. So if you're an Oilers fan and you think they have hope and they can come back, plus 345 is about as good a value as you'll ever get. But right now, everyone leaning towards Florida getting it done. This number was much closer when the series started. In fact, I think it was kind of what the line is right now. And also, you can see here, you're getting Panthers at plus money on the road, which is understandable. It's in Edmonton. You would expect Edmonton to bounce back in this game, but still, definitely tempting to take Florida in that spot just because of how well they're playing right now. So we'll see how things look tomorrow night. Again, the Oilers favorites at home tomorrow night. That's June 13th for that one. Let's see what we got as far as questions in the chat here. What's up, Billy? Don't see Edmonton coming back. Clear Panthers win to my new hockey eyes. I know you're a newer fan. Listen, as an older hockey fan, I agree. I don't think Edmonton's going to come back. I just think Florida, like Barkov being out will hurt them. But I think even without that, I think Florida's got enough role players and think of it this way. A guy like Matthew Tkachuk has not really shown up in this series at all. If he gets going, that's deadly for Edmonton, Bennett on bribery and Bouchard were worse than the Vogel hit. Leon's hit was clean. Barkov got rocked. He hit his elbow though. You can't do that. I mean, you can't. It was a sneaky elbow. Even Bieksa referenced that in the broadcast. You're not allowed to do that. But listen, I am of the belief that I think it's Broberg. Gotcha. Bennett on Broberg and Bouchard were worse than the Vogel hit. Yeah, I mean, my thing is like I don't want the refs to determine the series, if that makes sense. Like I think if this is the regular season, there probably are suspensions handed out, but if you're the NHL player safety, you don't want to be looked as the reason that Florida won. And I don't think Florida wants that to be the reason they won either. You want to win fair and square. And I think if you leave the refs out of it a bit, I think you're just going to get a better series. And look, I'm sure Florida, they're probably going to be headhunting for Draisaitl now because of this, especially if Barkov doesn't play. And that's listen, the playoffs, aside from the playoffs, when it comes down to it, are composed of a couple different things. Obviously, it's skill and right place, right time, like team firing on all cylinders. But it is a war at the end of this thing. It really is. It's about who's healthy, who's not. All these guys, a lot of these guys are banged up. I think Draisaitl for sure is injured right now. He's not looked the same as he did in the Vancouver series. I think that's what this comes down to. So kind of what I'm getting at here is that like I'm glad they're not doing a suspension. As much as I'd love Draisaitl to get suspended, because I've been very clear about this. I do not want the Oilers to win. I think it's better for the game if they don't suspend him. I think it'll make it more intriguing. And look, if you're Florida, go after him. Like if we're gonna do this game of where like they're gonna take out star players, then fight back, because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's a war at the end of this thing. It's about who can survive at the end, and I think Florida's got enough firepower to do that. So we'll see how things go in game 3, but very interested in game 3 and seeing if Edmonton can bounce back. They can use that crowd and get some momentum going, because again, that game 2 did not look so good for Edmonton. Let's keep it going. Dude, that was a straight elbow to the head. Are you sure head all right? Barkov is fine. He will play. We don't know if he's going to play. You can tell Joe's an Edmonton fan. We'll just leave it at that. But I am with you, S. That was a straight elbow to the head. You're not allowed to do that. That's pretty much common sense. Nurse, Leon, Kane, Perry are all very injured. Kane might be injured, but he just hasn't been good anyways. Leon is a bigger star than all the Panthers combined. I will agree with that. Yeah, I will definitely agree with that. And they were talking about that today on the radio as well. 650, I was listening this morning. They were talking about if Draisaitl for some reason gets to free agency or he goes to a different team, like that, he's a franchise altering player. Like right now, it's all about McDavid, but Draisaitl's just as good. So that's why this Cup final is so important. If Edmonton doesn't win, if you're Draisaitl, do you want to be the number 2 in the market? Some guys don't. That's something actually right now, and we'll get into the free agency talk here in a second, but that's one of the things we're hearing right now with Elias Lindholm. Canucks apparently offering him a 7-year deal worth $7 million, which why on earth would you pay that? Like because the reason I say that is because you have your number 1C and your number 2C. You have JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. So you're essentially paying $7 million for a third line center. That is not a good way to build a hockey team, in my opinion. Your third line player should be a grinder, like Dakota Joshua should be their third line center, or even put Pierce Suter there. Paying $7 million to the third line center is not a good. I would rather use that money for a good winger, a good defenseman. I do not want to be paying that for a third line center. And I think Lindholm feels the same way. So what we're hearing right now, as far as what's out there, is that Lindholm turned that deal down. I think Lindholm wants to be the guy. I don't think he is the guy. I mean, I saw it firsthand in Vancouver last year. He did not play very well offensively. Yes, he stepped up in the playoffs, but that's too small of a sample size to say that this is the Lindholm that was, looking great with, the Flames a couple of years ago with Johnny Gaudreau. Like, I don't think that's the case. I think Boston's going to end up getting Lindholm, and I think Lindholm just wants to be the man, and I think if he goes to Boston, he can be the man. Like he can be that guy. Will he be that guy? No. I don't think he is. I don't think he's worth the money he's asking for. And I think the Canucks just dodge a huge bullet, if I'm being completely honest. But that's I don't know why. We just went off that tangent about Leon Draisaitl. If he does go to another team, he will be the man for sure. Kane announced the start of the playoffs. He has a hernia. Lindholm will be a Bruin. I agree. Canucks won't bite that much for Lindholm, as they shouldn't. I don't want them to. Listen, as a Canucks fan, I already went through this with Louis Eriksson. Okay. Honest to God, I would rather the Canucks be patient and not overspend in free agency than sign a contract that you're going to regret. Like, look at Mikheyev. That's already a contract that people are like, bad contract. There's talk about buying him out, which I don't think they'll do, but like, you don't want to sign guys to long-term deals that just aren't worth it. The guys you sign to long-term are your younger players like Pettersson and, Seelovs and these types of guys that are, young and can show potential because you can get them at a lower cap hit. What you don't want to do is spend on guys that are in that 29-30 range. How old's Lindholm anyways? I think he's 29. Now, they did do that with JT Miller, and right now that contract's looking good, but at a certain point, Miller's going to slow down and that contract's not going to look so good. So I'm of the belief you got to sign guys that are younger to longer deals and shorter term deals for other guys as well. Open season on McDavid now. It's always been open season on him. I mean, you don't think any of the teams out there that are playing right now don't want to take him out? Of course they do. He's their best player. So but again, like, I'm old school, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think in the chat here as well. I think people will agree with me here. I'm an old school hockey guy. I like fighting. I like hitting. I like obviously I don't like hearing about like CTE and all this different stuff. And I think that's stuff that should be monitored, but I don't want to take fighting out of hockey. I don't want to take hitting out of hockey. I don't want to take the physicality out of hockey. That's one of the reasons that people like it, including myself. And, we live in a world now where everyone's trying to make things different. And I like how hockey is. And I think, like I was saying with the suspension with Draisaitl, I don't mind him not getting suspended because I don't want, people being hard on the rules as a reason that a team wins the series. I'd rather it be because they won, because they outworked them or they outpaced them or were more physical. That's what I want to see. So I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on how the NHL is. Like, do you like fighting? Do you like hitting? Do you like the physicality? I would assume most of you do, but if there's people out there that don't like that, I would love to hear from you. But my view is keep it how it is. Let the players dictate the game and not worry so much about the reffing. Canucks are in a good spot. They should hold tight and try not to overreach this offseason. I think they need a winger. That's got to happen. I've heard they're in the Getzel sweepstakes, apparently. So that's another thing I was going to get into as well. So there's a couple reports out a few weeks ago that Jake Getzel would only play for an American team. And then we find out yesterday from Rick Dollywall of Donnie and Dolly that apparently that's not the case. And if that's not the case and you're the Canucks, that's absolutely the solution for Elias Pettersson's winger problem. For those who don't know, Pettersson has not had a good winger in his entire Canucks career. And they thought it might have been Mikheyev, but that hasn't really worked. Actually, no, they thought it would be Kuzmenko. That didn't really pan out. Mikheyev as well. They've tried Niels Höglander, who's played okay, but not like they need an elite playmaking guy to play with Pettersson. And I think Getzel fits the bill, and you don't have to give up any assets. Now, he is a guy I would be willing to overspend for. I know I just mentioned, guys in that 29, 30-year-old range, you don't want to go too much, but Getzel looks pretty legit. Like he looked good in the playoffs with Carolina. He is 29 years old, but to me, he looks like he's a way better bet, in my opinion, than Lindholm, because you're getting that, very much, tenacious scoring, good playoff performer. The guy's played with, Crosby. So to play with Pettersson, that could be enticing. Like, I think there's a lot of reasons to go after Jake Getzel. I know Elliot Friedman threw out that, there could be like a wild card team in this, like Chicago, but I don't know. It depends what he prioritizes. Is it money? Is it, being, is it winning another cup? Like, I don't know. So we'll have to see what happens, but that certainly got interesting. And then the other thing with the Canucks, and I was going to bring this up as well, as we're sort of getting into free agency. It was reported yesterday from Satyar Shah from Sportsnet 650. So Philip Hronek, right? Canucks defenseman, definitely due for a raise, but did not have a good second half of the season and didn't really do a whole lot in the playoffs. The rumor is he wants around $8 million a season, and everyone's kind of like, no, like you're not worth that much. You should get a raise, but $8 million is a little bit too much. Now it's tough because they gave up a lot to get Philip Hronek. Remember, they used one of the picks from the Bo Horvat trade, one of the first round picks to get him. So you've kind of done a lot to get this, and he's a right shot defenseman, which, as I've mentioned many times on the stream here, those are the two. Those and right shot centers are the most valuable assets in hockey right now that you can acquire, and he's at a good age range. The problem is, he hasn't really shown a ton. He's had, one really good season with Quinn Hughes. Do you want to bank on $8 million like that? It's tough to say. So it's kind of what I'm getting at is Satyar Shah reported yesterday that he believes that if the Canucks don't get a deal done before the draft, they might trade him. And that really opens things up, not only for cap flexibility, but then the Canucks have got to find another right shot deed. You go after Chris Tanev. Like, there's a lot of things at play right now. And the other thing you got to remember, they got a pretty good defenseman in the pipeline right now in Tom Willander, who they drafted in the first round last year, who's a couple years away. Maybe you don't want to sign a Hronek for that long and maybe hope that a Willander gets there. So things are going to be very interesting. I think this offseason is going to be so interesting for so many teams. You've got this whole Utah thing with their cap space and picks. You've got Chicago looking to take a step forward. It's going to be a very, very, very fun offseason, and I can't wait. I almost love the offseason and the trades and all that stuff more than the actual game sometimes. It's so entertaining to me, and I'm definitely that guy who's on his phone every morning checking to see if there's any activity going on. And free agency day is July 1st. It's Canada Day here. I will probably be outside somewhere checking my phone. I love it. I just absolutely love all of it. And I think the Canucks, things could go really well for them and they could go really bad, right? Because they got 8 UFAs. We're hearing as well that some of their, and this isn't just a Canucks show, guys. It's just, I do follow the Canucks a lot more than other teams because I'm sort of immersed in the market here. But we're hearing Tyler Myers is the only player that's really close on a contract. He's willing to take a discount. I think he's made close to $60 million in his career. He lives in Kelowna. It seems to make sense that he'll be back. So that's one of your right shot defensemen back. Teddy Bluger, haven't heard much there. Dakota Joshua, there's a rumor out there that Steve Yzerman's willing to pay him $4 million a season. I don't want to do that. Even Patrick Alvin, the GM himself, said we can find another Dakota Joshua. You got Ian Cole, doesn't appear to be back as well. I think he's looking for more like a multi-term deal. Cole, by the way, not very good in the Edmonton series. And then who else? Obviously Lindholm, and then Zadorov. Like, I'd love Zadorov back. I think he adds a lot that you don't get in a lot of defensemen, in that he is physical, he's a big guy, and he can score. And we saw him score a lot in the Edmonton series. But I think the money is the issue. And, do you want to commit that much to a guy realistically who will be on your third line D pairing? Because right now, your D pairing goes, Quinn Hughes is your first left shot defenseman, first line. Second line will be Carson Soucy, who kind of does the same stuff as Zadorov. And then you got Zadorov. It's like, do you want to play a defenseman that much? $6 million, $5 million a season? I don't know. So anyways, we'll see. Anyways, I'm skipping all over your questions. Let's get to it. Good luck catching McDavid. That's true. I'm just saying that people will be out to get him. Hockey is a special sport, the only place on planet where you can bare knuckle fight someone. I agree. Any update on Big Z? So the last I heard was that they were at the Combine in Buffalo, and I guess Dan Milstein, the agent for Zadorov, was there, and they didn't meet. So that's not good. If I was a betting man right now, I'd say he's gone, and it sucks. But at the same time, after going through the Jim Benning area with Vancouver, the former GM, and seeing how much they overpaid players, I'm kind of on the side of like, I don't want us to tie up too much salary, because I think the most valuable asset other than picks for an NHL team is cap space. If you have cap space, you can do a lot more. And I think like if you commit too much, I don't know. Your hands are tied. And I think, that happened last year at the deadline. The Canucks couldn't do anything. Like they got Lindholm and Zadorov ahead of time, but they couldn't even add a depth forward. They couldn't even sign Phil Kessel because they didn't have enough cap space. So maybe if they did have an extra player, things could have been different against Edmonton, but I don't know. It's, they got to be very careful in this free agency and allocate the money properly. But I will say one thing, like I am very confident in this management group. I think a lot of the moves they've made have been very good. The amount of draft capital they picked up since Benning basically traded all of it is remarkable. You even look at some of the guys in the pipeline they have, like it's very encouraging. So listen, I got all the faith in Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin and Cami Granado and Emily Kosingay. I think the management team's great and I think they'll make the right moves. I'm just right now there's a little bit of nervousness as a Canucks fan seeing where they're going to go. What's your pick for tomorrow night's game and what's the score? I'm going to go, and keep in mind this is a little bit of a biased pick because again, I'm not an Edmonton guy. Sorry, Joe. By the way, I like your name, Joe Opinionated. I think that sounds cool. Arthur, I am going to go the Panthers edging this one out slightly. I think the under will hit again. I'm going to go 3-2 Florida tomorrow night. That's what I'm going with. Take the under though. The under I think is hitting all the games so far, right? Usually it's usually under 6. So yeah, 5 in the last game, 3 in the game before. Because again, Bobrovsky, man, you're not going to get a lot on him. Oilers 3-2 overtime. Okay, so we have the same score just in reverse. We'll see. Panthers never forget. Payback is coming. Remember you saying the Golden Knights aren't what they used to be. What changed? Well, I think for the Golden Knights, they've taken a lot of big swings, but they're and obviously they've done some creative stuff with the cap. I just think some of the moves really haven't panned out. And they've traded a lot of draft capital as well. So they haven't been able to be as flexible as other seasons, although saying that they got Hurdle last year and who was it? Mantha and Noah Hannafin was a good pickup for them too. One thing I will say with Vegas that I think will bite them in the long run, goaltending. You remember when Vegas first came in, they had Marc-Andre Fleury, then they got Robin Lehner. They haven't really had like a backstopper goaltender. I realize Adin Hill won the cup with them, but I don't know what Adin Hill is. I feel like Adin Hill is kind of like Cam Ward with Carolina, where it's like we had a goalie that was, hot one year, but outside of that, not really super consistent. They've got Logan Thompson. Like they're just not, I think that's where there's a bit of a weakness. And they got a couple UFAs I'm just going to double check right now. By the way, we got to use cap friendly as long as we can because it's going away. The Washington Capitals bought it. So we're going to have to use Puck Pita instead. But yeah, they have a few free agents. Chandler Stevenson, I think, is one of them too. Who are their UFAs? They've got Anthony Mantha, Jonathan Marchessault, Chandler Stevenson, and then Zach Whitecloud and Braden McNabb are up the year after. So they got some decisions to make for sure. But yeah, you look at the goaltending. Adin Hill. I don't think Lehner's ever going to play again. It kind of looks that way. They've got Adin Hill and Logan Thompson. Like that's not a good tandem. And we've seen in the playoffs, especially with Florida, like you need elite goaltending, right? So it'll be interesting to see what they do, what moves they make, what type of cap space do they have. They have like $1 million in cap space. So they're not going to be able to do a whole lot right now. They pretty much, can't do much of anything. Payback for what? Bennett running fives, guys. Oiler fan on Van Island. Oh, interesting. Where in Van Island do you live? I went to high school in Vancouver Island. Not to give too much away here. Don't like people stalking me, but curious where on Vancouver Island you live. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Vegas does. But yeah, I just say that like they've kind of gone all in like every year. Like they've made big trades. Like remember they got Pietrangelo a couple seasons ago. They acquired Jack Eichel, right? But that came with a cost in terms of picks and other things as well. Like I'm just looking here. Vegas does have their first round pick next year, this coming year. They don't have first round picks. So in 2024, they only have their first round pick. They do not have second, third, fourth, fifth round picks. 2025, they don't have their first round pick. 2026, they don't have their first round pick. Like that's stuff you can use in trade bait. Canucks are in the same issue. They traded a first to get Lindholm, and so they will not have first round pick this year, but their pick wouldn't be that good anyways. Lady Smith from Nanaimo, though, interesting. I went to Brentwood College for high school. That's in Mill Bay. I'm sure you know where that is. Beautiful area, by the way, Nanaimo. Great area. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens with the Knights, but Certainly very interesting. One of the things I wanted to look at was this article that Daily Faceoff came out with, was looking at the, so just to reiterate here quickly, I do think I'm going to go 3-2 the score tomorrow night. I'm going to go the Panthers edging it out just slightly on that one. So again, look at the under on that one if you guys are going to be betting. Okay, I wanted to look at these buyout candidates. Frank Saravalli posting this on Daily Faceoff today. I want to get your thoughts on this. So these are some of the buyout candidates. Pierre-Luc Dubois, which is very interesting because the Kings just acquired him last year. Rob Blake did say he was not going to buy out Dubois, but it makes too much sense, at least till June 24th. That's when Dubois turns 26. For now, he's 25. That means the Kings are only responsible for paying 1/3 of the money remaining on his deal instead of 2/3, which happens when he celebrates his 26th birthday. If the Cup final goes to Game 7, that won't be possible. And of course, 14-year buyout sounds painful now, but the majority of the cap hits are negotiable at a time when the cap is well exceeding $100 million per year. I don't know if they'll do that, but yeah, he's been awful. Pierre-Luc Dubois at this point is like damaged goods, right? He's been on how many teams? He was drafted by, I always get this mixed up. Was it Winnipeg he was drafted by? No, it was Columbus he was drafted by. I always forget. It was either Winnipeg or Columbus he was drafted by and then traded for Laine. So he was drafted, it was Columbus, then traded to Winnipeg, then to the Kings. So this is a guy who's on his third team. He's only 26 years old, has not looked good this season, played a little bit better in the World Championships, but I don't know. And the Kings are another team that, they need a goaltender. That's number one. Like, they definitely need to get a goalie. Do they get Allmark? Who do they go after? So they've got some decisions to make, but they did not look good against the Oilers at all. It wasn't even competitive. So it'd be interesting to see what they do here. Okay, next one, Jack Campbell. Yeah, which is interesting because the Oilers are in the Cup final and they have they're starting goaltenders in the minors right now. He's not even playing. So he's got 3 years remaining at $5 million AAV. So the structure, that's one thing I should mention here with Dubois. So the structure would be 14 seasons varying from 1.1 to 3.8. 14 seasons though, man. That's worse than OEL, right? I think OEL was only 8 seasons, the buyout for the Canucks did. You got Jack Campbell, 6 seasons varying from 1 to 2.6. Jack Campbell struggled nearly from Jump Street, unable to perform, was waived to Bakersfield. He's been an emergency goaltender, but not expected to do it. So it's 3 years remaining. Maybe Ken Holland's worst move was getting Jack Campbell, of course, formerly of the Leafs, formerly of the Kings. I could see him getting bought out. The Oilers need to, and the thing is, there's going to be raises, right? Bouchard's going to get a raise, Draisaitl. So they might need to do that. Barclay Goodrow. Oh, interesting one. I didn't realize he was getting paid that much. Again, Barclay Goodrow, lower in the lineup, 3.64. That's too much. I think teams are starting to realize you can't pay guys, that type of money for being on the third, fourth line. The Rangers think highly of Goudreau. So again, same thing, 1 million to 3.5. The Rangers think highly of Goudreau, also scored some great goals. 3.6 is way too much to pay your fourth line center. Exactly it. So if you're a team that's paying guys 3-4 million to be on your lower line, it's not really worth it. So that could be one as well. Korpisalo, Ottawa. Didn't they just sign him? This is a tough one. Korpisalo is the only recently signed goalie that you could ask a buyout question. He was signed by the old Ottawa Dream just 1 summer ago. He had a tough save percentage. Yeah, you'd be getting some decent savings though, but 8 seasons, yikes. That'll be interesting. Pajot, that's one we've been hearing forever. In fact, Pajot was rumored to be in the Bo Horvat deal back then. He's got 2 years remaining. They need cap space. Islanders, I think, if you look at the Islanders, they don't have much cap space, I don't think. Oh, they got $6 million. So yeah, they could use that, but they've got they got a couple of guys they got to re-sign. How many players do they have signed through the season? They've got 17, so they still need to sign 6 more players. So they got to figure that out. Torrey Krug, that was another guy they just acquired not that long ago. Again, 33 years old, 6.5. He's got a no trade. So they can't trade him because of the no trade, but they could buy him out. That'll be interesting too. Cal Peterson, Flyers. He's getting paid $5 million a season. Jesus, I didn't even know that. Yeah, Flyers are another team with not a lot of cap space. If you look at it here, and again, like if you're a non-playoff team and you don't have much cap space, that's not good at all. Now they have a couple UFAs. Atkinson will be up the year after. Yeah, Wow, Mark Stahl's on the Flyers. I had no idea. Let's just go through the rest of this list and we'll get to your questions, guys. I just want to go through this. Cam Atkinson, who we just mentioned, Ryan Suter, who, yeah, he could get bought out twice. Suter has been mostly fine for the Stars, but the end of the contract was always going to be problematic. He was exposed in the playoffs. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see where that all ends up. So who do you guys think will be bought out? Let me hear about that. I noticed Makheyev's not on this list because, again, I think the Canucks will not need to do that. I think they're just hoping he'll bounce back. Let's get to your questions, everyone. Barkov's playing official. Okay, there we go. Interesting. Well, that'll be good. Nice, yes. Oiler fan from Alberta here. I don't think we're going to bounce back. Would be epic if it happened, though. Yeah, we'll see. Listen, okay, what's the percentage? I could be wrong about this. I might be wrong on this percentage, but this is what I remember from hearing on the radio the other day. 92% of teams that are up 2-0 in the playoffs tend to go on to win the Stanley Cup. You know who's part of that 8%? The 2011 Vancouver Canucks. So don't put it past anyone. By the way, I watched that, or I have to watch the rest of it, but I watched part of that Riot documentary on the Vancouver Canucks. I'm just here for the Riot, the ESPN 30 for 30. Embarrassing, man. Like, I'm from here. I'm proud to be from Vancouver. Like, I love this city. I think it's the best place in the world. I was not living here at the time. I was actually living in Toronto. But man, talk about embarrassing, people trashing the city like that because we lost to the Bruins. Not a good look. But I will say, we got a lot of passion, right? That's one good thing. You don't have a hockey market that doesn't care about hockey. The Kings should buy out Pierre-Luc Dubois. Guy is cancer. They'll never win with him. There we go. They picked him over Jesse Puljujarvi. That's right. Jack Campbell's traveling with the team, third goalie. Surprise, surprise, he's fine. He did get hit pretty hard, though, Joe. Come on. You have to admit. Listen, by the way, I just got to thank Joe for being in this chat because most Oilers fans cannot converse with a Canucks fan. So I got to give you credit for being in here and joining the show, obviously. We really appreciate it. But yeah, you have to admit, like, that elbow was pretty hard, man. Like that, elbow on the chin. Listen, I'm a guy who covers MMA for a living. Getting an elbow on the chin's not good news. 6-2 for the Panthers. By the way, I got to say, and I guess I never noticed it during the regular season, I love the Panthers when they score in their goal song. They have the Panther going, rah, rah. I think that's so cool. I think teams that have like any sort of animal or anything should have like some sort of sound effect after. Like, do the Lightning have like a lightning sound effect after they score? I don't think they do. They need to do that. Now, saying that, I do not want the Canucks to do like an orca sound. That would be really lame. How big is the Stanley Cup final in Canada in comparison to the Super Bowl? Where it's not even close. Like, if the Stanley Cup, well, okay, let me put it this way. I think it's a big deal in Edmonton. I'm actually flying to Edmonton on Friday to do some commentary. But so I'll be interested to see like what the city looks like with the Oilers there. If this was in Toronto, this would be like front page news of everything. I think if it was in Vancouver, it would be pretty big too, or Montreal. But I think even with it being in Edmonton, it's not that big of a deal. Super Bowl is like worldwide known. Like, I bet there's plenty of Americans and people around the world that don't care about the Stanley Cup Finals. If it was a different series, if it was Edmonton and New York, I think it would be a bigger deal. I just think Florida is not like a big hockey market in the grand scheme of things, so I don't think it's as big, but you never know. Super Bowl is big here, World Series not so much unless the Blue Jays are in it. Yeah, I agree. I for example, I couldn't even tell you who won the World Series last year. Ryan Super should retire. Suter, yes, 30 for 30 owes the Canucks a new dock, maybe for the Russian rocket. Yeah, they should do one on like his Pavel Bure and like his impact on the sport. That would be cool. Listen, the girl who did the documentary is Kat Jamie, the girl who did the documentaries on the Vancouver Grizzlies. So, I mean, so far I'm fine with it. I think it's good to just show what actually happened, and it is embarrassing, but I don't think it I don't think it was a bad documentary. I don't think it was like super slanted. I think they just got the emotions of what people are thinking, and and I think too, it was interesting because it was right at a time when people were posting stuff on social media and not really understanding the consequences. So that's another sort of interesting part about it too. But the Canucks documentary should be on. Yeah, you could do one on Bure. I think that would be interesting. I just want to see more documentaries on hockey in general. Like that Joe Sakic documentary about the Rangers offer sheet was amazing. They also, ESPN did a great documentary on the Red Wings and Colorado Avalanche rivalry as well. I'm a sucker for documentaries. I love watching all that stuff. What was so bad about the Bruins that caused the riots? So the Canucks were up 2-0 in the series. It was like, there's a couple things. So Well, one thing they didn't mention, I don't know, I have to watch the rest of it. I haven't seen them mention it, but one thing that they didn't mention was that a lot of people were upset about the Olympics being in Vancouver because they tore down a bunch of housing and a lot of people were pissed off about that. So they kind of used that as an excuse to riot. But in the documentary, they made it out like it was just because the fans were mad about the loss. So I think what it was that they had the Olympics earlier in the year. Canada won gold. Everyone was just sort of expecting a party. And when it didn't happen, they kind of just like, I don't know, there was like tension in the air. They were kind of describing it. So that was part of it. And I think just, you got a lot of passionate people. They're going to do stupid things. So I honestly believe now that you wouldn't see a riot because like there's just so much out there like with social media that if anyone was going to do any damage, they'd be found out right away. But yeah, I just think it's like we just haven't won. Like it's kind of sad actually. Like the Canucks have never won the Stanley Cup in the modern era. And it's a really passionate hockey market. So I think like, if it was like the Vancouver Whitecaps losing the MLS final, like no one would care as much. But the Canucks are like, everyone here, it's like Canucks are huge here in Vancouver. Like it's the number one ticket. Like there's no second place. Like even the BC Lions in the CFL or like the Vancouver Whitecaps in MLS, even the Grizzlies when they were here, the Vancouver Canucks were always the biggest ticket. So I think that's part of it as well. When Bure came into the league that year was electric. I agree. I always say this, and I'm curious to get your thoughts as well. Bure to me was the original Ovechkin. Like he was this flashy Russian player, didn't maybe have the personality that Ovechkin had, but on the ice, the guy was just dazzling out there. It was very, very, very fun to watch. Pavel Bure, if you guys haven't seen Pavel Bure play, funny enough, you mentioned him. I got his jersey behind me here today. You can see it there. The Russian Rocket. Amazing, amazing hockey player. One of the best to ever do it. Vancouver riots when a concert gets canceled. It's just what they do when the party gets canceled. That's true. They did riot. Well, no, the riot wasn't as big when the concert got canceled, but yes, I agree. Hello from Saskatchewan. That's awesome. Go Rough Riders. Hey man, one of my bucket list things to do is to go see a game at the what is it? What's the name of the stadium? Is it I forgot the name of the stadium you guys play at, but I want to go to Saskatchewan and see a CFL game there because you guys are like super passionate about the CFL and like I think the CFL is a cool league. Like it's not the NFL. It doesn't have to be the NFL. It's its own thing. But I have a lot of respect for like the fan base of Saskatchewan with the Rough Riders. I think it's really cool. So shout out to Saskatchewan. I actually have some relatives who live there too. Let's go Edmonton Oilers. Bring the Stanley Cup back to Canada. This is where we disagree, but that's okay. Should change the name to BC Canucks. The rest of the province doesn't like being associated with Band City. That's what you think. That's absolutely not true at all. They play in Vancouver. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I know Alberta has the Edmonton Oilers and Calgary Flames, but I think the Vancouver Canucks are fine. It's in downtown Vancouver. I am Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Sask fans are best football fans in Canada. 100% agree. 100% agree. I need to go and see a game there. That's on my bucket list for sure. Nice people, passionate people, kind of flat, but whatever. It's its own part of Canada. Our stadium is a music stadium, correct. I'm not a fan of Saskatchewan football, but big fan of their fans. I am as well. Well, I don't even know how their team's doing these days. I know the Lions lost last weekend to the Argos, but we have like really good ownership now. Like they do like tailgates and they got 50 Cent to come to the opener. Like that's awesome. So yeah, the Lions are like becoming a good ticket again here in town, and it's a lot of fun. Mosaic Stadium, that's the name of it. I was gonna say, yeah, Mosaic, that's the name of it. Once upon a time, I used to work at TSN, and I remember we used to get the ratings, and like CFL football got like great ratings. It's like really cool how like people are into it. I know a lot of young people aren't into CFL football, but I like respect the history of it. And I remember back when like the Lions were really good, like back in like 2008, 2009, like when they had like Wally Bono as the coach and Dave Dickinson as the quarterback and Lule as the backup. Like it was a fun time. One cup only for the Blues. Who knows when we'll sniff another one. I think it's the hardest trophy to win in sports. I really do feel that, especially with the salary cap. Like you think of like the NFL, and NFL, NBA, like they don't have the cap restrictions that the NHL does. Like it's very hard to win when you have a salary cap. CFL needs one more team, at least 10 East teams would be nice. Well, what about the Maritimes? They've been talking about that for a couple of years, like Halifax or something. That would be kind of cool. We'll have to see. Bombers need to change their logo. I agree. Kind of boring, and I don't like the. Are they still what do their uniforms look like now? Winnipeg Blue. By the way, this is the point in the show where we're talking about CFL football, but that's totally fine. Yeah, actually, I don't mind their color scheme, but yeah, the logo's got to change. Just the W, that's kind of lame. Get like a good like what was the old logo? Their old logo had like the football on it. That at least look a little bit better. Go to Regina for a week when they are playing Winnipeg. Everyone in the city will be wearing green. Everyone. Yeah, I definitely got to check that out. Okay, we'll get to CFL talk in a sec here, guys. But let's get back to free agents. Let's talk a little bit more about that and any other hockey stuff you guys want to talk about. We can talk a little CFL as well. Like I said, it's got a special place in my heart. So yeah, you can see Sam Reinhart there, big free agent. Everything I'm hearing behind the scenes, just from the people I listen to, say that Reinhart will be back with Florida. So I think that's pretty obvious here. They're projecting on daily faceoff, they'll get 10.2 a season. Don't know how that'll work with their cap. Again, got to check out the salary cap on the Panthers because they got Monitor as well. They got to re-sign too, right? So they have $20 million in cap space, but they got to sign Bennett. They got to sign Verhaeghe. And look at all the free agents they have. Cousins. Jesus, how many players do they have signed? They only have 14 players signed. Jesus. And they don't have, look at all the picks they don't have. First round for the next 2 years. So there we go. Yeah, Montour is going to get a nice raise, I would imagine. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing here. Also, they got 2 UFAs next year. Sam Bennett. Sorry, what am I talking about here? Sorry, I'm looking at Reinhart's the UFA. I was getting Bennett and Reinhart mixed up for some reason. So Bennett will be a free agent the year after, but Reinhart this year, he's got to re-sign. So that'll take up some cap space as well. We got Stamkos. Again, I'm really curious about the Stamkos thing. Like, I don't know if he's back with Tampa Bay. We talked about this, I think, last week. Like, they don't have a ton of cap space. Getzel, no idea where he's going to go right now. Would love the Canucks to get him, though. You got Patrick Kane, who's not really worth what he's worth these days, but we'll see. Pavelski for Dallas. I think Pavelski pretty much said he's not playing next year. Brady Skell. I don't know how you pronounce that guy's last name, but left shot D. He might be, they're thinking 7.4 for a guy who's 30. I don't know about that. Lindholm. You got Marchessault, who, I don't think, we'll see. I'm sure someone will pick him up. Montour, 8.7 million. Yikes, that's a lot of money. Pesci, Matt Roy, Toffoli. Toffoli's another name to keep an eye on. OEL, Dakota Joshua. See, they're projecting Dakota at $3 million, but then we're hearing that he might get $4 million. Jalen Chatfield was a name that I heard the Canucks are poking around at. Of course, he used to play for the Canucks. Jake DeBrusk, another one that could be of interest, 28 years old, left winger. Sean Monahan, another big name out there. Look at this free agent class, man. It's going to be fun. Look at all the names out there. It's going to definitely be some movement. I love this. I love the parity of the league. Came back to Chicago. I don't know about that. I don't think he'll go back. I think the idea was like, hey, I'm done. I'm gone. Like, I think maybe Buffalo. That's where he's from. Maybe he goes there. I don't know. Or maybe he wants to latch onto like a cup contender. Maybe he goes to like a Colorado or something. I don't know. No way Stamkos plays anywhere else. But how are they going to sign him? He's at 6. They're projecting 6.3, so he'll get a bit of one down. But look at the cap space here. Unless they have a trade up their sleeve here. But if you look at Tampa Bay right now, why isn't the Lightning coming up? Whoops, Tampa Bay Lightning. So if you look on Cap Friendly here, they've only got $5 million in cap space. Like, maybe Stamkos takes a discount, but then they've still got all these other players to sign. They've only got 18 players signed. So that's what I mean. Like, I think they're going to have to make a trade somewhere. Who would they get rid of? And man, that Tanner Jeannot trade. Look at the lack of draft capital. Look at this. No picks for the first 3 rounds this year. Next year, they don't have their first or second, so they're in trouble. Do you trade Hedman? I don't think so. I mean, he's a UFA. Like, that's what I mean. And they just acquired McDonough. That's the weird one for me. Why get McDonough back when you don't know what's going on with Stamkos? So I don't know. We'll see. Can show Edmonton Oilers players. What do you mean? Just in the cap situation? Yeah, I can do that. As I spelled Oilers wrong. So the Oilers got $10 million in cap space. The only Draisaitl is going to get a big raise here. And then they got a bunch of UFAs here. Again, they've only got 14 players signed, so they got to figure that out. They got guys like Fogle and Carrick and Gagne's not much. Henrique, who they acquired at the deadline. Corey Perry. Darnell Nurse signed for a while at 9.2. Ugh. Cody Cece's got another year left. I forgot Troy Stetcher was on the team. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Barkov plays tomorrow. The dirty German is going to get some stick and punch. Yeah, I've heard some very derogatory terms towards Draisaitl for being German. We'll just leave it at that. My favorite player is Leon Draisaitl. You know what? I'm kind of torn on Draisaitl. Like, I don't want to like him because of the Canucks series, but I love his interviews, how he's like so short with the media. That's so funny. Like that whole thing with Jim Matheson a couple of years ago. 6 for Stamkos at that age. He takes a discount. Even if he takes a discount, you basically have no cap space if you re-sign Stamkos. And if you're a team that was out in the first round, you got to think they're going to make some changes. So I don't know, Joe. I don't think it's a guarantee that Stamkos is going to be back. Did you see a lot of Leafs games when you lived in Toronto? Not really. I saw maybe like 3. Like I lived there for like 10 years. I maybe saw 3 games. They're pricey tickets. And I think the only games I went to were the Vancouver games. In fact, there was a game I went to where the Canucks like outplayed the Leafs and Ryan Miller was in net and he played like shit. And that's how the Leafs won. They ended up like winning that game. The Canucks like outshot them. But yeah, I went to like a few games, but it was just, it was too pricey. And like back then I was not making any money. So I couldn't really justify going to a Leafs game when that's like, beer money for the next like month or two, like it's not a cheap ticket. Nurse is terrible and CC. Yeah, Nurse is just not worth his contract. Like it's unfortunate, but yeah, he's just not worth 9.2. Joe, what do you think of Darnell Nurse? I would love to get your opinion on this. CC as well was a help. Yeah, not incredible. A lot of the Canucks fans are kind of trolling Oiler fans because Jason Greger, who's like a media member in Edmonton, said that Cody CC was better than Chris Tanev, which is kind of laughable. Do you think the Edmonton Oilers are going to win the Cup? No. Do you think Binnington has much longer left as Blues starting goalie? How many more years does he have left? That would be my question. But if I had to guess, I think he's got maybe 3 or 4 seasons left. We'll see. Maybe longer. We'll see. So Binnington, yeah, so he's signed until 2027 at $6 million, which is okay. At least he's not like getting overpaid there. I bet he play. I mean, it depends what direction the Blues want to go in. Like, do they have? They got some decent cap space, and they still got a few more players to sign. They could be some players here, especially if they buy out Torrey Krug. Like that could be interesting. It's weird with St. Louis. Like they're kind of in the spot where like, should they do a rebuild? Should they not? Should they do like the rebuild on the fly, which is what like basically Dallas did, and the Canucks to a certain degree. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do, but not a lot here, guys. Like Kyrou is probably one of their Kyrou and Thomas are probably their 2 sort of leading guys, and then outside of that, not a whole lot. So we'll see. We will see. Edmonton Oilers going to win the Cup. It would be a very, very interesting comeback if that does happen. Tanev way better than CC. CC is popular in the room. McDavid had wanted to stay at the deadline. Okay, interesting. Didn't know that. I just remember in Ottawa. I remember I have a bunch of friends who were Senators fans because I went to university in Ottawa, so I still keep in touch with them. And they always complained about CC not being too good. Florida's not winning. Edmonton Stadium's not Florida's. They're going to lose. Well, if that was the case, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not completely counting Edmonton out, but it's very tough to come back after 2-0, being 2-0 down. But we'll see. I like the optimism there. I will respect that, even though, again, I'm not an Oilers guy whatsoever. What else do you guys got as far as other questions? What else? Let's look at some more free agents here, guys, as we're sort of looking through the list here. Pesci's another guy to keep an eye on. Again, right shot D going to be in demand here. 6.7 for a 30-year-old. Ugh. That's what I mean. Like, if you're a team like, I'm just trying to give an example. Like, if you're a team like Chicago, you can afford to like overpay for like a guy like Brett Pesci or whoever, right? Because you need some leadership in that room to like help like nurture like Bedard and some of the younger players. But like, if you're Toronto, for example, like you don't want to sign that contract, right? So it'll be interesting. What do they have Lindholm at? $8 million. Yeah, he's not worth $8 million. There's no way. Because he's more of a defensive guy. You don't want to pay that much for that guy. If he had more offense up, like basically he's getting the paid. He'd be getting the paid as JT Miller, and JT Miller's way better than Lindholm. Kapanen from here, and Capo is Kapanen is from here. Gotcha. Nurse lucked out, got paid the year his contract came up. Nurse and McDavid, close friends. Their parents are close. Nurse needs a good partner that can move that puck. I suppose that's fair. Who do you think the most top 5 candidates that are most likely to be bought out? Initial thoughts: Elvis, Nurse, Pajot. I think all those ones I would agree with them. And then the question is like, if you're, yeah, like again, I'll take Rob Blake's word for it that he's not going to buy. I kind of hope they don't buy out Dubois. Rob Blake doesn't, because then they're screwed. And then like it's someone who doesn't like the Kings. It would be great to see them like not succeed, but yeah, Elvis could get bought out. But then who's going to be your goaltender, Troy? Who do you guys get? Do you guys have anyone in the pipeline? Basically, it's all about keeping Leon and Connor after the contract expires, so they'll hire their friends just like management. Well, they've already done that, right? They hired Jeff Jackson, who I think was McDavid's old agent. And then they brought in McDavid's old coach from junior. So, yeah, I think they're doing everything possible to make McDavid stay. It's tough. It's interesting. Joe, you might know better than me. Like, do you get any sense at all that McDavid wants to play for the Leafs? Because he's obviously from Ontario. Was he a big Leafs fan growing up? I don't know. Some of those guys, they want to play for their hometown team, right? Like, like Tavares, right? He bolted from the Islanders. Is like, I want to play for Toronto. Some guys don't. Like, I know Joe Sakic, Paul Kariya from Vancouver did not want to play for the Canucks because they didn't want the spotlight. Some guys do, some guys don't. Yeah, I'm reading a lot about Iginla. So Iginla, is it Tij or Taj? How do you say that? Tij Iginla? Jerome Iginla's kid. So cool, man. Seeing like the kids of like NHL players that I used to watch like growing up. Very, very cool to see. Yeah, it'll be intriguing to watch. It'd be cool if, I don't think, none of the Alberta... Actually, let's go look at the draft order. I can't even remember who's where. Where is Calgary in the draft order? NHL draft order. So you're saying he's flying up the board. I was going to say it would be cool, even though I'm not a big Calgary fan. So Calgary's 9. Can you imagine if Calgary got Iginla's kid? How cool would that be? I don't think he'll fall that low, though. So if he's 5, maybe do the Habs go after him? Maybe. Also, we're hearing New Jersey might be trading their pick. They got pick number 10, and they need a goaltender. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, Canucks are going to pick 28th. I'm not that bummed they traded their first round pick. That's basically like a second round pick. San Jose going to get Macklin Celebrini. Very interesting. Nurse won't get bought out. No, he won't get bought out. Edmonton is the ugliest city in pro sports. I haven't been to Edmonton since I was a kid. Daniil Tarasov, 6.5 Russian that finished with nearly identical stats to Sorokin last year. He was rehabbing from injury. Oh, that's the goaltender? Okay, cool. I love hearing about these new up and like every year in the league, I see like a new goaltender. I was like, where did this guy come from? Calgary. Yeah, that would be great if Calgary got Iginla. I'd be rooting for that. Just like, did you guys see Macklin Celebrini on the panel for Hockey Night in Canada where he was talking about cheering for the Canucks? Like, I think it's pretty obvious if he ever gets to the point of where he can leave San Jose, he'll come play for Vancouver. I think Bedard, same thing. Can you imagine in a couple of years, like, I don't know. I know these teams are going to try and keep their players, but like, can you imagine if like Bedard and Celebrini came to Vancouver? That would be so cool. Because like over like traditionally, we've never seen like players from Vancouver like really do that well in the NHL. There's a few, like I mentioned, like Joe Sakic, but like none that were like high picks or whatever, you know? So it's kind of what I'm looking at. What else do we got? I think Leon re-signs with the Oilers. If the Oilers lost to the Canucks, it would be over. Well, what if they get swept? I'm just saying it could happen. What if they get swept? Would that change Leon's mind, do you think? I was hearing some rumblings about Leon maybe wanting to go to San Jose. Because like I think he lives there or something, or like he has, I don't know, where I was hearing something the other day on the radio about like Leon and San Jose, I'm not sure. The Cleveland Monsters, Columbus Blue Jackets AHL team has forced Game 7 with the Hershey Bears, Caps AHL team after being down 3-0. That's awesome. AHL hockey's cool. I went and saw the Abbotsford Canucks play earlier this year, and my son had a great time. I think I told the story. My son got to ride on the Zamboni during the intermission. Really, really good ticket, and like not expensive. Like I think I paid like, can't remember how much it was, but we had like third row seats. I like the AHL. Really, really good product. And they got good logos. Like I think I prefer the Abbotsford Canucks logo over the regular Canucks one with the little Johnny Canuck on there. It looks cool. And the Cleveland Monsters got a cool logo. Hershey Bears. But yeah, that's good to hear, Troy. Again, I told you this before, Troy. Like, I'm rooting for Columbus. Like, they're a team that I know has a good fan base, and they just have not had any success. They've had some bad drafts and bad trades and all types of weird stuff go on. But I think with Don Waddell, I think things are looking on the up for them. Conference final, so the win goes to the Cup final. Okay, gotcha. Because what I heard, is it Seattle's team is the one that's doing quite well right now, or here, let me even look. This is a hockey show, so we can talk about the AHL. AHL playoffs 2024. How's that looking? Calder Cup playoffs. So how's it looking right now? Playoff tracker. So, the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Is that not? Which AHL, which affiliate is that? I'm trying to remember. Is that Seattle? Yeah, it is. Oh, interesting. So Bilesma's still the coach, but isn't he? He's leaving to go to Seattle, which is kind of cool. So imagine if he wins the Calder Cup and then that as well. So look at these logos, man. They're great. Look at this, like Cleveland the Monsters logo, the Milwaukee Admirals. That's a cool logo. I've always loved the Roadrunners logo. Ontario Reign using the old Kings logo. Big logos fan. I got to say that. Hershey Bears. Look at that logo. It's a great looking logo. Here's a not so popular opinion from an Oilers fan. If Connor and Leon can't win the cup in their primes, do we really want them when they get in their later years? I would agree. Sometimes it's good to split things up. Just like trying to think of like NBA obviously comes to mind because we've seen plenty of guys like split up and find their own path, like Kevin Durant or like Kyrie Irving or any of those guys. But like in the NHL, has there been like them like splitting up a duo and them being like playing better on their own? I'm trying to think. I remember like Yager back in the 90s, like trying to, find success on other teams, although he never really did. Had the most success in Pittsburgh. Well, I guess the Oilers with, Gretzky and the Kings leaving and, him leaving the Oilers, that's probably an example. Trying to think of like a more recent example, like a high caliber player leaving a team and going somewhere else. Seattle has Shane Wright. That's right. Yeah, who's actually not really panned out that much for being he was supposed to be first overall, and then remember he got snubbed. I wish him well though. Yeah, what would a Leon trade get? I mean, they get tons back. At the minimum, you're talking about a first round pick, probably multiple picks, first, second round, probably a like good prospect as well, and then even like a good roster player too. It would be a lot. JT Miller. Well, no, Miller wasn't like a star though in Tampa. I think he was like a third line player when he was with Tampa. So that's Miller emerged into that. But I'm thinking of like a player that was playing well with their team. Like maybe like Dougie Hamilton's a good example. Like Dougie Hamilton's been on a couple teams. Like I remember when he was with Boston, he was like a good player, and then he went to I think it was Calgary. So that's one. PK Subban leaving Montreal to go to Nashville, and then Shea Weber going back the other way. That's another one. Those Shaflek left the Lakers. That's true in basketball. That's a good one. Yeah, there's plenty of examples, but I'm just trying to think in hockey in particular. Those are ones that definitely make sense. All right, guys, we're almost out of time here. Really, really good chat here today. Joe, please come back next week. We love having you, even though, again, you're an Oilers guy, but that's totally fine with me. We're going to wrap things up right now. Guys, if you have any questions that we didn't get to today, just post them in the comments, but we try and do the show every Wednesday. Maybe I'll go live after one of the Cup final games if it all pans out. We'll just see how the timing works out, but it's tough because I coach hockey at night, so it's tough for me to watch all the games. Like the other night, I was doing some other stuff and kind of had to watch it on PVR and then catch up to the game and all that. But yeah, just let me know. And guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Like I said, Taylor's putting content on this channel every single day as far as post-game content. And you guys can follow me on Twitter. I mainly cover MMA, but I do this hockey show once a week. As you guys know, hockey is my favorite sport. So hope you guys enjoyed the stream here today. Again, I'll be back here next Wednesday, same time as usual, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you guys soon.